So I was talking recently about this, the words that we carry that aren't ours, and that become the part of our story, and sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, and something that we're very attached to, even though it wasn't ours to begin with, and how it's a lifetime's work really to get rid of it. And I've been just mentioning the army of resistance that comes up when I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, which I suppose stands in the way of this fake story, and it's a danger zone. It's it's outside of an established comfort zone. And like I said, if you're going to feel the way you've never felt before, if you're going to be what you've never been before, how will you know that's how you can't know what it's going to be like. So automatically this is something scary. We have a very deep engraved fear of the unknown, even if we're courageous by nature, but it's very, very strong within us. So this obstacles. It's funny because one is afraid of what's on the outside and in the outer world, this unknown. And actually the deeper the biggest problems and obstacles are within ourselves. And there's really this kind of idea of getting out of your own way, really. And of course I that led me to thinking of what I've been thinking about it for a long time, and how I always thought that that's one of the main purposes of magic, is to strip all these layers of what you're not, and what's not yours, and what's just acquired and kind of dragged along like like a dirt in a river. And the purpose would be to clear these waters. And I think it's not separated. It's not something that I've ever seen as opposing each other or anything like that. But I also think that by seeing magic as this very kind of noble self, like an exaltation of the soul, and concentrating only on that as some sort of almost just psychological exercise, in a way, psychological venture. I think I've limited myself as well, because I was scared that things just wouldn't work, and on the practical level. So if you can always say that this is all purely subject, and here comes the discussion whether things are in your mind or objectively existing with their own agenda, yada yada. I think that's like, I think it's not really, I don't really care. It's not really not only I don't care, I just think it's kind of pointless and silly, and automatically counterproductive to this work. Although I did have this moment when I was very preoccupied by this discussion, and I wanted answers. I still have these moments. I often find that if I have too many questions, that's another way the resistance manifests itself. So I still, I still think of magic, like one of the purposes of magic, or purposes, or maybe not purposes, but also like part of the path is to purify yourself in a way, to transform yourself from all these undesired, unproductive things, ideas that kind of stick to you like post-it notes until there's nothing left. You don't see what's underneath. So I'd like to kind of, unwrap it, and it's scary because you don't really know what you're gonna find. And sometimes I had this ideas that, you're only, when you wake up for a moment, you can be anything. And then you remember, as you kind of step into the waking world, you remember what you are. And you're like, oh, okay, that's what I'm supposed to be. I'm shy. Let's, act as a shy person. And that's why I think there's this good, interesting exercise to kind of acting as if, acting as if you were confident. What would you be like as a confident person? And then it kind of merges. Well, that's like a first step into acting, and acting is magic in a way as well. So, but it doesn't mean pretending, and that's the thing. That's the fine line. Because when you're pretending, you're just adding another layer, I suppose. Interesting, as many things are. So I was walking in the woods the other day and just kind of preoccupied with that question, and with how funny that is, that every time I go out for a walk, there is something in my mind that keeps me busy, some notion, some idea, some problem, like a theme of the day, of something to think about, something to reflect upon. And so every time there's a story, every time I go out of the house, there's a story, and I kind of dissect it and analyze it and discuss it and express it and reframe it and change perspective and try to learn from. Every day there's a different story. And then I was thinking, how different I feel from day to day. Yet I'm still myself, but I can feel very different, as someone very different. And how many factors play a role in that. And I was thinking recently how when I read people, when I read books written by people, by authors from very different backgrounds, how it takes a while to tune into their language and to understand what the hell they're talking about sometimes, when it's strong, when there are, cultural references I know nothing of. Sometimes it's a bit subtle, and with time, and I think the same thing happens when you're hanging out with people you're not usually acquainted with. When you change environment, it takes a while to kind of understand their jokes, understand how they talk. It's very surreal, and especially to be aware, especially when you change environment quite drastically, when you try to hang out with someone from a completely different world. It can be quite surreal. It definitely shakes up certain senses, almost. I've often felt as an outsider, as a kid, as a teenager, as a young person, always felt kind of outside of everything. and it would shock me if I could find a friend or someone who would have a similar sense of humor from, different country. And I find it quite, um, quite a miracle for this to happen, or having similar, having seen similar movies. And of course that leads me to thinking how much these things influence us, the culture. Like, there's just so much to strip away, to manipulate, to imagine, how different you could be being born in a different country and to different family with different language, how language influences how you express yourself and the whole way of thinking, and the upbringing, the culture, the books, the movies, the experiences, the, of course, ethnic background, all these things. And I remember, yeah, even diet and things like that. I remember how, um, just this very, very subjective experience of the world, the kind of view. And we are quite concentrated on a visual, I think, but let's say the view, but not only of the, of this movie that we have. It's a completely subjective, and you will never know what it's like on the other side of somebody else's movie. And I was thinking, I think I was saying a diet, how much it changes. That's why I was also thinking, like, maybe I've been just kind of eating crap, and which has been annoying because, I like my cake, so. But like, I ain't getting rid of my cake. But the thing is, I was also running, and I know how my body reacts. Usually I just can, when I was younger, I've been struggling with things, and my diet was really less than ideal. But still, if I was running, my body would just like process everything, and you. Well, not that I would encourage to do that, but perhaps with age, and it changed. But my ability to just like a goat transforming a tire into milk. No, I'm not transforming anything into milk, but just like the same form of magical transformation and alchemy going on. But I know, that I didn't really feel, and it was much worse. So honestly, I find it quite unfair. So I was thinking that maybe even that's why I couldn't remember my dreams. Maybe I eat something or drink something that inhibited that. I think some people say that. I think alcohol changes, the way. I think some people dream more, some people dream less. I can't remember how it works with me. I don't drink much at all anyway, but generally alcohol, it's not a good idea for me at all, in general, but I do sometimes. So at the moment it's not the case, and that's why I was like, oh, maybe salt, maybe sugar, one of these drugs. Caffeine, maybe. Oh yeah, I drink a lot of coffee, so that might be it. But anyway, my point was that I remember when I was actually quitting sugar, I was, I think, at 4 weeks, completely no sugar at all. It's been quite challenging because sugar is in fucking everything. So, I really had to just eat like carrots and broccoli and being someone who doesn't really cook much, and it was just, it was boring, but it wasn't that bad. It was interesting, definitely, something that I'd like to try again. I'd like to see. I would definitely get my cheekbones back because it just does. Yeah, I think sugar is just a fucking killer. But anyway, my point is that I I felt so different in my body that I couldn't recognize it. I couldn't recognize this feeling of this like strange emptiness. I wasn't hungry. I was just feeling like I was floating, like I was levitating or something. It was so strange. And yet, it wasn't unhealthy. It wasn't like because for example, the other time when I was fasting, I was fasting for almost a week or something, 6 days perhaps. I broke on, I think it was supposed to be 7, but I broke on the 6th because I started feeling unwell and I felt like it was not, not fun anymore. Like it didn't feel right. So I broke and then was perhaps not the best idea at the time. But only, I think, the way I just swing back into bad habits. But at the time, it fixed quite a few of my problems. So I was quite happy about that. But the point was that you just kind of discover these new feelings, and well, there's a reason why you fast before magical operations and things like that. And definitely helps. Definitely changes perception and how receptive you are to the outside world. I think it brings some kind of clarity. And so there's like this whole range of factors to manipulate yourself. I find it extremely interesting. And you, which part of self would you like to manipulate today? There's always so much work. It just never ends. Never ends. Even when you think it's done, it's not done. It's only just beginning. Till next time.